Morning, Judge.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Doing well.
You know what's going on with the men?
Some last minute running around, but they should be getting logged in shortly.
Okay, all right. So I'll just mute my screen until I see them pull up.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Are you guys ready?
We are.
Okay. Okay, if everyone would please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any statements or anything you tell the court today, including the information on your application for counsel, is true and correct? And if so, say I do. You put your hands down. All right, this is your first appearance in the Magistrate Court of Clayton County. We're not here to take a plea or to try your case today. The only purpose that we're here for today is for me to set a bond in your case if you are going to get one, and to schedule a preliminary hearing if you decide that you'd like to have a preliminary hearing. Some of you will be allowed to post unrestricted bonds for your release pending the prosecution of your case. So there are three types of bonds. There's a bond through a bonding company, which we call a commercial bond, in which they require at least 15% of what your total bond amount is. The second type of bond is a cash bond, where you literally post the amount of bond directly to the sheriff's office for your release. And when your case is over, you get your money back minus some administrative fees. The third type of bond is a property bond. If you decide to use property to secure your attendance to court, you have to make sure that there's at least 3 times the equity amount in the property that you're using so that you can use the property bond to secure your release from jail. Some of you will have special condition bonds. Those bonds will prohibit you from contacting a certain person or going to a certain place. If you violate the court's order and you contact the person I tell you not to have contact with, or go to a place I've asked you not to go to, you can be charged with aggravated stalking and you won't be entitled to a bond. The maximum time you can face is 10 years in prison and a $20,000 fine. So it's very important that you follow the court's order on your condition bond for release. If you have any family members who are going to assist you with posting your bond, when we literally finish this court hearing, I'll complete the paperwork and it'll be put in the system in the jail so they can get you bonded out. If you have a domestic violence type case, the alleged victim on the case will not be able to post your bond. You'll have to find somebody else to do that. If you're on active probation or parole, the law does not authorize me to set a bond in your case. That would have to be determined at a later time after your probation officer has an opportunity to meet with you or to request you for a violation of a probation warrant. So make sure you listen very closely to this next part, because you're all going to have to make this decision when you come before me individually. You're going to have to decide whether you want to have a preliminary hearing or if you decide that you want to waive your right to a preliminary hearing and send it to either state or superior court for further prosecution. A preliminary hearing is where the state has to prove that it's probable that you committed the crime as alleged. So it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, but probable. And I can tell you now, so they can help you make a decision about what you want to do. If you're charged with misdemeanors only, your court date will be March the 23rd. That would be the next time you come to court if you have a misdemeanor and you don't make your bond. If you're charged with a felony, your next court date will be March the 24th. So if you decide you want to have your preliminary hearing, and for whatever reason, either you don't have a bond or you're unable to post your bond, those will be your court dates. So keep that in mind when you make your decision, whether you want to have your preliminary hearing or if you like to waive it. I can tell you, if you do decide to waive it, you will be in court within 7 to 10 days. If I appointed a lawyer to represent you based on your application, someone will have to come visit you this week in jail to help you if you are still incarcerated. Okay, so that covers everything. So we're going to start with the females first, and then we'll begin with the male.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the first female I have is Kiora Dukes.
Coming up, Judge.
Ms. Dukes, you've been charged with having no license. That bond is $1,000 and no insurance. It's also $1,000. Would you like to waive or would you like to keep your preliminary hearing?
Waive.
Okay, there's a waiver form over there. Make sure after you sign it to write your name legibly on it so that I'll know it's your waiver, okay? And so if you don't make your bond, you'll have a court date. If you, you'll have a court date within 7 to 10 days. And based on your application that you filled out, I have appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions? All right, thank you. Nadia Irvin.
Dr. Van.
Coming up, Judge.
Ms. Irvin, are you aware you've been charged with? Your bonds have been denied in your case at this time. Would you like to have a waiver or preliminary hearing?
Preliminary hearing.
Okay, so your preliminary hearing is going to be on March the 24th. And based on your, did you complete the application?
No, Judge, she was in medical isolation when we were having those forms filled out.
Okay, are you employed, ma'am?
No.
Okay, so I'll appoint an attorney to represent you based on your testimony today that you're unemployed. Did you have any questions?
No.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, Tierra Holmes.
Judge, she's actually still in medical isolation. To my knowledge, she was on suicide watch.
Okay, so are they gonna do the pod or are we gonna continue our case?
I am not 100% sure. I will definitely have an answer for you before we're finished.
Okay, all right, no problem. All right, Miss Jeffries,
She's coming up, Judge.
okay. Miss Jeffries, you've been charged with simple battery. Your bond is $5,000. You do have a special condition to your bond. You're not allowed to have contact with Jacoby Austin at this time. And I wasn't sure, do you both live at this address?
Yes, but I can go to my mom's house, that's fine.
Okay, because I wasn't sure who lived there or what, but I know you, neither one of you are not gonna be able to have contact with each other at this time. So based on your application for counsel, I've appointed you an attorney. Do you want to waive or do you want to keep your preliminary hearing?
Wait,
Okay, so you can complete the waiver paperwork. And if you all can sort out the details about who's going to stay, who's going to go, just do that through the attorney that I've appointed to represent you, okay? All right, thank you.
thank you.
Just make sure you complete that waiver form and sign your name.
Okay.
Ms. Largan,
Coming up, Judge.
Ms. Largan, you've been charged with unlawful conduct during a 911 call. Your bond is $1,000. Would you like to waive or keep your preliminary hearing?
I like the way.
Okay. When you complete the waiver paperwork, make sure you sign your name legibly so I know that it's yours when they send it back. And based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Did you have any questions?
Yes, well, it's about my belongings.
I can't hear you. You said it's about what?
My belongings that, when I was detained, the officer he had my cell phone, wallet, and my Georgia ID.
Those items should be in property there. So when you bond out, you'll be able to get those items when you leave.
Okay, because they weren't on the list of items that they received off of me at the time I came in.
Okay, so if you don't get the items when you release, the lawyer that I've appointed to represent you, let them know that so they can track down your belongings. Says it might be a property with the police department and not the sheriff.
Okay,
Okay, all right, thank you.
thank you.
Judge Tiara is now here with us.
Okay, all right. Are you gonna have her come up now or
Whatever order you want to go in, Judge.
you can bring her up now?
Come on up, sir. She wasn't able to fill out the attorney form.
Okay. Hi, Ms. Holmes, how you doing?
How are you?
All right. This location, was this your workplace? What was this location?
It was a good one.
Oh, okay. So you've been charged with simple assault and criminal trespass. Your bond on the simple assault is $2,000. Your criminal trespass is $1,000. You do have special conditions. You can't have contact with Danae prior. Did you hear when I went over all the rights earlier? Were you in the medical? You didn't hear it?
I was in medical.
Okay, so what happens is because you have a special condition bond, you're not allowed to have any contact with Danae prior. If you violate the court's order, you could be charged with a felony aggravated stalking for violating the order, and that's a maximum of 10 years in jail, prison, and a $20,000 fine. So you don't want to violate the order of the court. Okay. All right. So you have I'm going to set your case for a preliminary hearing, and I'm going to appoint an attorney to represent you. You're not working, I'm assuming.
No.
Okay, so I appoint an attorney to represent you, and then they'll be in contact with you if you don't make your bond. Did you have any questions?
No.
All right, thank you. Is it Mania Goldbass, Janaya?
She's coming up, Judge.
All right. How you pronounce it? Okay. So I see that both you and Miss Stillwell live together. Which one of you are gonna, somebody has to leave the address, and because you both are listed as living at the address, are you gonna leave or is Miss Stillwell gonna leave? If not, I'm just gonna choose the first person.
I'm gonna leave.
So you're gonna leave?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have any personal items still there, you'll have the opportunity to go back within 10 days from your release with a sheriff's deputy to get your items from there. So don't go by yourself. So no, nothing else will happen, okay?
Okay.
All right, so you are ordered to have no contact with, is it Soraya Stillwell?
Fair.
Okay. Your bond on the battery is $5,000 and the criminal damage in the second degree is $1,000. Did you want to waive or keep your preliminary hearing?
Can you explain what the difference is again?
But you would have to state, would have to prove that it's probable that you committed the crime as alleged.
That's if I waive it?
If you waive it, both of these roads will possibly lead to a trial. It just depends on the resolution of the case. So what we're gonna do is we'll keep it, and then you can meet with your attorney based on your application. How much do you didn't put? How much money do you make a month?
I'm not sure.
What's your average?
Like by hour?
You said like what?
Like by hour?
No, how much do you average a month in total?
About 12,000. Well,
How much do you make a week?
like 650.
Okay.
Oh, split it in half, 350.
Okay, so based on that, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. And you have a preliminary hearing date on the 23rd. Do you have any questions? Any other questions?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Who's still on? Oh, okay.
Ms. Stillwell? Is she in isolation?
No, Judge, she's here, and she also did not have an opportunity to fill out her attorney form.
Okay. Ms. Stillwell, how much money do you make?
Like 300 to 400, maybe a week, maybe a little less.
Okay. Based on the information you provided, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Did you want to, so what I'll do, since you'll both keep your preliminary hearing dates, it'll be March the 23rd. If you make the bond, you won't have court. They'll send you notice when to come back. And your bonds are the same. Your battery is 5,000 and criminal trespass is 1,000. Did you have any questions?
No.
And you also can't have contact with Janaya, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just sit up. And
Ms. Wohler, you've been charged with criminal trespass. Your bond is $3,000. You cannot return to the Magnolia Inn at 7419 Davidson Circle in Stockbridge, Georgia. If you still have your personal belongings there, you can take a sheriff's deputy with you to retrieve your items from the location. Would you like to waive or keep your preliminary hearing?
I don't understand that.
Okay, so we'll keep it. Based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Did you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Judge, I believe we've gone through all the ladies.
Yes, sir, we have.
All right.
All right, thank you.
What's your name?
Perry, LeBron Perry. My charge been over with, sir.
Okay, look at you.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
if it's possible, when we start with the melt, if we can start with Mr. Perry, LeBron Perry.
Perry, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Qualifications, Your Honor. So I can ask you a question.
Okay, Mr. Perry, you've been charged with giving a false name, address, and date of birth. Your bond is $1,000. Obstructing a law enforcement officer is $3,000, and possession of marijuana is $1,500.
That was CPD.
What'd you say?
That was CPD.
Okay, so you remember when I said this wasn't a trial? I'm just here
Okay,
to charged with.
I had probation on me. Okay, no
Hang
problem.
on 1 second. So, hold on. So I'm not here to get and hash out the facts. I have an affidavit alleging what has occurred from the officer in your case. So we're just gonna set the bond and you're gonna let me know whether you want a preliminary hearing or if you want a trial. So it sounds like you want a preliminary hearing, but what would you like to do with your case?
Preliminary hearing.
Okay, so that's the time that you're gonna be able to challenge what was actually you possessed. So that's gonna be on March the 23rd. How much money do you make a month?
I have a job, man. I work at royalty tax place.
The question was, how much money do you make a month?
How much money do I make a month? Really like $856.
A month?
I really get a social security check, man.
All right, so based on what you just told me, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Your preliminary hearing date is set for the 23rd. Do you have any other questions, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I have paperwork saying that my charge been over with for the probation warrant that was put on me. Judge Garrett is my witness. And Darius Austin is my witness. That my charge been over with. It was less under $500. That's why it should never been a felony case. It was a misdemeanor charge. I beat that.
Okay, so what happened is they'll confirm all the information with your probation officer.
Yes. Can if they find me innocent, can I get paid for being on that false imprisonment?
You would have to talk to your lawyer about that. I can't give you any legal advice because I'm the judge in the case and not the lawyer.
Yes,
Step over here, Perry. And Your Honor, can we do also Mr. Donovan Scott?
Okay, yep, we can do it.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Mr. Scott, you've been charged with battery, family violence. That bond is $10,000. Criminal damage in the second degree is $2,000. Criminal trespass is $2,000. And driving with a suspended or revoked license is $1,500. You have special conditions. You cannot have contact with Sharonda Scott. And you cannot go back to 5060 Frontage Road. I don't know if you're still there, room 114 Forest Park. Would you like to waive or keep your preliminary hearing?
I'm trying to figure out if I waive it, when will I go? And if I don't waive, when will I go?
So because you have so your case is going to go to Superior Court. So if you decide you want a preliminary hearing, it's going to be March the 24th. If you waive it, you'll be in court within 7 to 10 days.
I want to go within 7 to 10 days.
Okay, so then you have to complete a waiver form and make sure you actually write your name where I can read it so I know that it's your waiver. How much money do you make a month?
I don't have a job.
I didn't hear you.
I don't have a job.
Okay, well, based on that, I'm appointing an attorney to represent you. Did you have any other questions?
No.
All right, thank you, sir.
Oh, excuse me. How much did you say my bond was total? What? 15,000?
15,500.
So,
We can start from the top now, or, yeah,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Mr. Akine? So you've been charged with aggravated assault by strangulation. That bond is 30,000. Simple battery is 10,000. Obstructing a law enforcement officer is 10,000. So your total bond is 50,000. You have special conditions. You are not to have any contact with Tamira Bellamy. Would you like to waive, or would you like to keep your preliminary hearing? I didn't hear you.
Wait,
Waive. All right. So be sure to complete the waiver paperwork over there, and based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Did you have any questions?
okay.
All right. Mr. Alexander? Mr. Alexander, you've been charged with family violence battery. That bond is $5,000, and cruelty to children is $2,000. You have special conditions. You can't have any contact with Ashley King, and you cannot go back to 6556 Katy Lane in Morrow, Georgia. Do you understand your conditions?
yes,
Would you like to waive, or you want to keep your preliminary hearing?
wait,
All right. Make sure you complete the waiver form over there. And based on your application, I've appointed a lawyer to represent you. Did you have any questions? No questions? All right, so just fill out the waiver form and make sure I can read your handwriting.
yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Mr. Austin? Mr. Austin, you've been charged with simple battery. Your bond is $5,000. You have special conditions. You can't have any contact with Jakar Jeffries. Do you understand your special conditions? Ms. Jeffries indicated she was gonna leave the property earlier, so you're allowed to stay there at this time. Would you like to waive or keep your preliminary hearing?
Wait,
Based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Did you have any questions?
no, no.
All right, so just make sure I can understand your handwriting on your waiver so I know it's yours, okay? Mr. Borchers? So you've been charged with speeding. The bond is 1,500. Too fast for conditions is 500. Improper lane change is 500, and reckless driving is 1,500. Would you like to waive or keep your preliminary hearing?
If I bond out, does the preliminary hearing still, is that like a mandatory, or would
No,
that?
yeah, if you make the bond, then you no longer have that court date. They'll mail you notice when you come back to court.
Okay.
So which one you want to do?
I'm just gonna keep it.
Okay, so it'll be set for March the 23rd. And based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Did you have any questions?
No, that's it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Conde, is he, because he's still in medical?
I'm I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Mr. Conde, is he still in medical? That's what they had on this form.
Yes, ma'am, he's here. I have him here, though.
All right.
I'll bring him up.
Mr. Conde, were you here when I went over all the rights earlier?
Oh, man.
Okay, so this is just your first appearance. We're not here to take a plea or try your case or get into the facts of your case. It's just for me to let you know what you're charged with and what your bond amounts are. So you've been charged with battery. That bond is $5,000. Criminal trespass is $1,000. You do have special conditions to your bond. You cannot have any contact with Ethel Webb, and you cannot return to the premises located at 2265 Mount Zion Parkway. Do you understand the conditions of your bond?
Yes.
All right, so if you violate the court's order and you have contact with Ms. Webb or you go back to that location, then you can be charged with aggravated stalking, and that doesn't entitle you to a bond, and you can face up to 10 years in prison or a $20,000 fine. So it's very important that you follow the court's order. If you still have any belongings at that location, I've made a provision that you can go back to that location with a sheriff's officer within 10 days from your release, get any undisputed personal property. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes.
All right. Preliminary hearing date is going to be March the 23rd. If you bond out of jail, you will not have that court date and you will receive notice when to come back to court. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any questions? Oh, could you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the statements you're about to tell me are the truth? If so, you can put your hand down. How much money do you make a month?
No, man, I'm on disability.
Okay. So based on that information, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Did you have any questions?
No, man. So if I don't bond out, I gotta stay in here until March?
Yes, if you don't bond out, that'll be your next court date. I've appointed a lawyer to come represent you. They'll probably waive the case if they believe that there's no reason to keep the hearing. So you may be in court sooner than that once the lawyer meets with you this week if you don't bond out.
Okay.
All right.
Davis, you can come.
Mr. Davis? Mr. Davis, you've been charged with driving without a license. Your bond is 1,000. Improper U-turn is 500. And failure to use a signal is 500. So your total bond is $2,000. Did you want to waive or keep your preliminary hearing?
Keep my prayer.
All right, so your preliminary hearing is gonna be March the 23rd. Based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Did you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Is it Dothbit?
Doubt it.
Okay. So you've been charged with possession of a firearm by a felon. Your bond is $4,000. Would you like to waive or keep your preliminary hearing? You said waive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So complete the waiver form over there for me.
One question, how much is that to the Bills Barber?
It'll probably be between $450 and $500.
Okay.
So complete the waiver form and make sure I can understand your hearing rights. So I know it's your waiver. And based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay.
Darius Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Henry, how do you know Kavion Sherman?
That's my little brother.
Okay. So your bond is set at $3,000. You cannot have any contact with Mr. Sherman at this time. Would you like to waive or keep your preliminary?
Keep.
All right, it's gonna be on March the 23rd. If you make your bond, you won't have that court date, and they'll send you notice when to come back to court.
Okay.
Could you raise your right hand? You swear affirm the information you tell me will be the truth?
Yes.
All right, you can put your hand down. How much money do you make a month, sir?
Between 2 and 3,000.
How much is your rent or mortgage?
Rent is 300.
Are you married?
No,
You have any children?
no.
Okay. Did you want to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
Uh,
Or did you want to hire your own attorney?
no, I'll take one.
Okay, I've appointed one to represent you. Did you have any other questions?
Uh,
Do
so,
you live at that address with Mr. Sherman?
yes.
Okay, so what you're gonna have to do is take a sheriff's deputy with you to go get your items. You can do that within 10 days from your release from custody, okay?
Okay.
10 days to get it.
So I can't live there, like after.
No, not right now, because I don't know any of the facts. I just know what the officer swore to the oath. So you'll have to contact the attorney that I have to represent you, and they can modify the bond where you can go back home.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not anything permanent. It's just, I have to maintain the peace until everybody can sort out the fact.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
So you said my bond is 3,000, so it's 300.
So if you go through a bonding company, it's probably gonna be like 350 with all their add-ons and service charges.
Okay.
All right,
All right. Thank you.
you're welcome. Mr. Jacobs,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jacobs, you've been charged with one count of battery. That bond is $5,000. How do you know Mr. Freddie Jacobs?
That's my wife.
Oh, yeah, I did see that one. Okay. You cannot go back to 386 Eagles Flight Lane in Riverdale, Georgia. You have 10 days from your release from custody to go get any undisputed personal property. At this time, as you just heard me explain to the gentleman earlier, that can be modified at a later date with your attorney to come and change it so that you can be, but at this time, I have to maintain the peace. So you can't go back there. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And would you like to waive or keep your preliminary hearing?
I waive it.
Based on your application here, it doesn't look like you're working. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Did you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, make sure you fill that waiver form out, Mr. Jacobs. Mr. Keith Lloyd,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lloyd, you were charged with simple assault and having a weapon at a school premises. Through the fault of the officer, he can fill out the warrant correctly, and as such, I have to follow the law. So I dismiss the warrant against you, so your case has been dismissed.
Okay. Thank you.
So just a word of caution, it doesn't mean that the state of Georgia won't pick the charges up after this, but I can't hold you on the insufficient warrant. Okay, all right. So, Mr. Merriweather? Mr. Merriweather, you've been charged with driving on a suspended license. That bond is preset by the jail 1,500. Theft by receiving stolen property was also set at 2,000. The other charges, you weren't allowed to bond because you're on probation. And by law, I can't give the bond when you're on probation. And your probation officer has indicated they are going to come and pick you up for the case you have. They send all the paperwork over. So you'll be able to get a bond set after the probation officer comes to see you. I have appointed an attorney to represent you. Did you have any questions? Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing or would you like to waive it?
I keep.
All right, it's gonna be on the 24th. Any other questions?
No.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ramirez needs the interpreter, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so then we can do Mr. Taylor.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hello, Mr. Taylor, you've been charged with simple battery. Your bond is $5,000. You can't have any contact with Jatavia Taylor. You cannot return to 987 South Avenue, Forest Park, Georgia, 30297. I have allowed that you have 10 days to go with the sheriff to get any undisputed personal property. Would you like to waive or keep your preliminary hearing?
Keep my preliminary hearing.
It will be on March the 23rd. Make your bond, you won't have that court date. Did you have any questions?
Take care.
Okay, I'm gonna mute this while I get the interpreter on the line.
Did Taylor, I couldn't,
He's a preliminary hearing. All
yes, ma'am.
right. Do you swear or affirm that you will translate from English to Spanish and Spanish to English to the best of your ability? Okay. Mr. Ramirez, are you Mr. Ramirez? Yes, you can.
Buenos días, yo voy a hacer el día de hoy, señor Ramírez.
¿Cómo? ¿Cómo dice?
¿Me lo debe escuchar?
Ahora sí.
Okay, he's able to hear me. Go ahead.
Can you hear him?
¿Nos puede escuchar?
Sí, sí, le escucho ahora.
All right. Is your name Mr. Ramirez?
¿Es su nombre Ramírez?
Luis Ramírez.
Yes, Mr. Ramirez.
Okay, Mr. Ramirez, this is your first appearance where I'm going to tell you what you're charged with and how much your bond is.
Señor Ramírez, la licencia, el cual yo le voy a estar diciendo que le acusa y cuál va a ser su posible penalidad o multa.
You've been charged with simple assault and that bond is $7,000.
A usted se me acusa de lo que es una agresión y tiene una multa de hasta de $7,000.
You have special conditions on your bond.
Existen condiciones las cuales son especiales para su fianza.
You cannot have any contact with Victor Ramirez Cordon.
No va a poder tener como Víctor Ramírez Carlos un tipo de ningún modo.
You cannot return to 5637 Gloucester Court.
No poder usted regresar a las 537 Gloucester.
You have 10 days from your release of custody to go with the sheriff's deputy to retrieve any undisputed personal property.
Va a tener usted 10 días a partir de que usted sea liberado para ir a la oficina del alguacil para que pueda usted ir a recoger cualquier propiedad.
You cannot go
Que no
there.
esté bajo ninguna disputa.
You cannot go there without law enforcement.
Usted no puede ir para allá, no puede presentarse a ese lugar sin lo que es algún representante de la ley.
Do you understand that?
Pero sí puedo llegar a recoger mi ropa.
He was talking at the same time as
I'm
you.
gonna go pick up my clothes.
Okay, yeah, as long as you go with law enforcement.
Sí, mientras usted vaya o sea acompañado de parte de un oficial de la ley o representante de la ley, está bien.
Okay.
If you violate the court's order, you can be charged with aggravated stalking and you cannot get a bond.
Si usted viola la orden que está pidiendo usted, la orden de alejamiento, usted puede ser acusado de alcoholamiento o de violar esta misma.
The maximum penalty for violating the court's order, if you're charged with aggravated stalking, is up to 10 years in prison and a $20,000 fine.
I'm sorry, you said 10 years in prison?
Yes, and a $20,000 fine.
Si usted viola esta orden, que le estamos dando,
Sí.
sí, la cual tiene la orden de no acercamiento, puede pasar hasta 10 años en la cárcel y pagar una multa de hasta $20.
So it's very important that you follow the court's order.
Así es que es muy importante que usted siga la orden de la...
All right. Your preliminary hearing date will be March the 23rd.
La audiencia previa al juicio va a ser programada para marzo 23.
Could you raise your right hand, Mr. Ramirez?
¿Puede usted levantar su mano derecha, señor Ramírez?
Do you swear or affirm the information that you provide will be the truth?
¿Usted jura, sí, y confirma de que la información que va a estar proveyendo va a ser verdadera?
Sí, sí, va a ser verdadera.
Yes, it's gonna...
Okay, you can put your hand down.
De acuerdo, ya puede bajar la mano.
How much money do you earn per month?
¿Cuánto dinero es lo que usted gana cada mes?
Pues yo ganaba $600 a la semana. Al mes son como 1,900, creo, ¿verdad? 1,900 creo que es al mes.
$600 a week.
Are you married?
¿Está usted casado? ¿Está usted casado?
¿Cómo?
¿Está usted casado?
¿Tardado?
¿Es casado?
Sí, sí, soy casado, pero mi esposa está en Guatemala y tengo 3 hijos.
I am married, my wife lives in Guatemala, and I have 3 children.
Okay. Based on this information, I'm going to appoint an attorney to represent you.
Basado en esta información, voy a estar pidiendo un abogado para que lo pueda representar a usted.
Do you have any questions?
¿Tiene usted alguna pregunta?
¿Voy a salir en libertad ahora o voy a seguir aquí como estoy ahora?
Am I gonna be able to release
Yeah,
right
once,
now, or
okay.
am I gonna have to stay here?
I forgot, I didn't explain the bond. So you can bond out through a bonding company and they take about 15% is one option.
Se me olvidó explicarle lo de fianza. Usted puede contratar a una compañía fiadora judicial, la cual puede cobrar 10% de la fianza para poder en libertad.
So that'll be about $750 to bond out through a bonding company.
Serían como $750 que usted necesitaría pagar.
¿Cuánto?
A la compañía. Serían
¿Cuánto?
como $150 que necesitaría usted pagar a la compañía
$150.
para poder ser puesto en libertad.
$150. ¿Me escucha?
$50.
$750, approximately $750.
$750, aproximadamente $150.
Okay.
Or he can post the cash bond, the whole $7,000 to the sheriff's office, and he'll get that money back at the end of the case.
O puede usted pagar todo el dinero de $7,000 Los
15,000 no puedo pagarlos, así como me está dando opciones usted de 750, yo sí podría yo pagarlo, porque tengo compromiso con mi familia y me cuesta un poco.
Well, if you give the option, payment option, I can go ahead and pay because I have a problem for my family on me, money wise.
Yes, and so the third option is through a property bond. If somebody owns property, it has to have 3 times, so it'd have to have $21,000 in equity for them to use the property.
Sí, la otra opción sería el hecho de que alguien pueda poner en garantía cantidad de bienes raíces que tenga como valores lo de la fianza, que son $20,000.
¿Cuánto?
Y puede salir.
The property would have to have at least $21,000 in equity to use a property to secure your release.
La propiedad va a tener que tener un capital o valor de $21 a ponerle en garantía y así pueda ser liberado usted.
So if you need to make a payment plan, then you would have to go through the bonding company.
Así es que si necesita usted realizar un plan o pedir un plan de pago, lo necesita hacer a través de la compañía fiadora judicial.
Ok, ¿cómo tendría que hablar yo con la compañía para llegar a un acuerdo?
And how do I need to go with the companies that are within that agreement?
Someone who's not detained, his family or friends would have to make those arrangements on his behalf.
Alguien que no está detenido va a tener que hacer el arreglo con esa compañía de parte suya.
Ok. Tendré que llamarlo desde aquí a un amigo, ¿verdad? Porque solo un amigo tengo ahí que él puede, tal vez, él es nacido aquí y él tal vez me puede hacer el favor.
Gonna have to call a friend who was born right here. Maybe he can do the favor.
Yeah, that depends on the bonding company. But Mr. Ramirez, he's been through this before. This is not his first time. He knows.
Bueno, es posible, sí. Mire, señor Ramírez, usted ya ha pasado por esto anteriormente, no es la primera vez que hace esto, entonces ya sabe qué hacer.
No, es primera vez, no, es primera vez.
Okay.
Porque yo no sé nada de eso.
All right, no problem. So he'll have to tell him to have someone to help him. Does he have any other questions?
Pero sí va a tener que encontrar a alguien que lo pueda ayudar. ¿Tiene usted alguna otra pregunta?
Pues, mientras no se pague ese dinero, o sea, esta de llegar a un acuerdo, no me van a dar la salida entonces.
So without a agreement or payment agreement, then I'm not gonna be able to be released then, right?
Yeah, you just have to post bond through one of the 3 options we just went through.
Sí, usted tiene que cumplir con con la fianza, una de esas 3 maneras que le informamos ahorita.
I've appointed a lawyer to represent him, and they'll come and help him to get all of this finalized.
Yo ya he puesto a un abogado para que le pueda ayudar, para que lo represente, el cual le va a estar ayudando a finalizar todo este proceso.
Okay.
Any other questions?
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Pues, yo estaba pensando como tener los $15,000, se me hace mucho difícil y yo tengo mi familia, tengo niños y estoy pagando allá donde ella, entonces yo mejor prefería que me deportaran mejor, que prefiero ir a trabajar allá a mi país y estar más tranquilo con mis hijos, porque ellos necesitan de mí y estar yo aquí y recaudar esos $15,000, imagínense, se me hace mucho dinero y entonces yo prefiero ir a que sea a comer frijoles allá con mis hijos y trabajar por ellos y que me deportaran mejor.
Yeah, I would prefer if I'm not able to pay $1,000. The children depend on. I mean, I afford it, and we can go be there. I mean, that's okay. Because I have with my children, I have an obligation with them. So I
Okay,
prefer
so,
to be deported.
okay, then he can arrange
Just
that.
imagine me paying that amount.
Okay, tell him he can make those arrangements with his lawyer. They'll come see him this week since he's gonna be there. All right, that's it.
De acuerdo, mire, después de hacer todo esto, el abogado lo van a ir a ver esta todo.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sir. All right, that's everybody, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, bye-bye.